Guys, today we are going to talk about some important facts of interviewing. And now some of you might feel that you are at a stage where the interviews are not coming in. Why looking into how to crack the interviews is so important? It is so important now because you are not in a position where you'll get 5, 10 interviews, and then by default probability you will be able to crack one of them. I'm very much sure that if any of you will receive 10 interviews, you should be able to crack one at least. However, it becomes even more important that if you get one interview now, you need to convert that one interview into an offer. Because if you don't convert that one interview into an offer, then it means that you don't know when your next interview will come back. So today we are going to talk about one of the crucial aspects, that how to understand Irish interviewing process, or maybe in other words, that what is the employer's psychology behind taking an interview, whether it is the first screening round, competency based round, or a full-fledged hiring manager's interview. Okay, so we're going to talk about these. But firstly, I would like to ask you another question with you guys, and somebody, I would need some volunteers to answer that question. If I go back, if suppose I'm an interviewer and I go back and ask Abhinav Singh, Abhinav, what has been the biggest challenge in your last job? Then Abhinav, could you tell me that how would you rate that answer? How would you frame that answer? What is the key thoughts that will come back into your point, that how you need to answer this question? Would you like to show some light, Abhinav?
Hi, Raghav. Yeah. So in my last job, I would say so we were not given a proper training
Okay.
for
Okay, just
initially.
before you go back and give the
Okay.
answer, I'm asking you not to give the answer. I'm asking you
Okay.
how you would frame that answer. That is the first building block here.
Okay. So,
Okay.
oh yeah.
What is the first thought coming in when I say that what has been the biggest challenge in your job?
So
What is the first thought coming up into your mind?
the first thought would be so I know we can use the star approach to answer a question. So first thing would be what I would see, what was the situation and how I faced it, and then what did I do to overcome that. So I would frame
Okay,
it in that way. Yeah.
partially right, partially wrong. Okay,
Okay.
guys, just understand that there are three things whenever an interview question is asked. You need to very quickly get into the three parts. First is why. You need to understand that why this question has been asked. That's the most important thing. Okay. Second, you need to understand why now. Same question, it is if it is being asked in the beginning of the interview, middle of the interview, or at the last of the interview, have different impacts. And the third thing you need to think about, what the interviewer would like to hear from this. So if somebody, and it's a very basic question, I'll go back with some serious and difficult questions as well. But if a very basic question that is most of the interviewers ask, that what has been the biggest challenge in your last job? And one of the key reason that why this question is being asked is because they want to understand two things. First, they would like to understand that is there anything that will hinder you to do the current job in hand? Second thing, they might like to understand that how do you solve the problems? Okay, so this question is not about elaborating that what problems did you face. This question is about 80% of the time you need to talk about what solutions did you do when you faced a challenge, and 20% of the time you need to talk about the problem itself. And the third thing that talks about that what does the employer wants to hear from you. He would like to hear from you a solid challenge, a challenge that can really happen in your job. And he would like to understand that how you have solved the problem without escalations, how you have solved the problem without being a crybaby to the senior management, and how you have solved the problems independently before the things broke down. So when you give an answer, Abhinav, next time, you just try to understand that you focus 20% of the time in explaining the problem using the STAR method, and 80% of the time you talk about how did you solve that challenge. And you need to ensure that You are bringing the point at the last minute when you are finishing up the star method.
All right.
Okay, somebody said that you are unable to hear in between. Anybody facing the hearing problems? I'm sorry, anybody facing the audio problems now?
No,
No,
no
no.
longer.
No? Okay, so it could be an
No.
individual problem. Okay, so in 80% of the time, and in the last part of the star method, you need to focus upon two or three things. When you say situation, task, action, and results, at the results point, you need to talk about that you handled this situation independently. There was no escalations. And third, you act in the timely manner and the proactive manner, focusing on how to stop the things from breaking over. All right.
Uh,
There is a very famous methodology which we call it out as 4P methodology. This methodology has been devised by myself and Career Island team. You will not find it over there any of the internet. Usually we train people in 4P methodology when we do the private
Right.
coachings. Somebody said something? Okay. So usually we train people on the 4P method when we have the private coaching for individual consultations. But today I'm going to talk about the 4P method, which is extremely powerful technique of interviewing. So today I'm going to talk about that, and you would definitely, I would seriously recommend that you incorporate these 4P methods into all your interviews. Okay, and then after that, I'll be taking your questions. So what is the 4P method that I'm going to talk about? The four P's are the four fundamental pillars of interviewing. You can make the notes if you want. And these four P's are so fundamental that if you use them, there is a big time chance that you will get through to the interview. It's been highly, I would say, impactful, and it has worked to many, many people. So these four P's of interviewing, the first P is called as promise. Second P is called as picturization. Third P is called as proof, and fourth P is called as pitch. So I'll talk about the one of the most interesting first P, which is called as promise. So if I go back to Sonali and I ask that, Sonali, if you are in the habit of watching TV and or any advertisements when you watch TV, did you recall any advertisement now, 2 years before, 5 years before, any advertisement that had a good recall value and you can still recall that? If Sonali could not answer, then I'll go back to Raghu. Would you like to give some answer, Raghu? Am I audible, guys? Guys,
Yes.
if I'm
Yeah,
okay,
you are
all
audible.
right,
yes, you are audible. Yeah.
okay. So I am audible, but Sonali and Raghu are not audible to me. Okay, I'll go back to Smita then. Smita, are you there? Smita is also not there. Okay, okay. I'll go back to you, Abhinav.
Yeah. Hi. I can recall there was this advertisement Santoor soap. It makes you like skin like Santoor
Okay,
mom and
yes,
all
yes,
that. Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, it was, it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
And if I would, I don't recall, I remember this, but I don't recall it very well. So I'll take
Yeah.
my example.
Mhm.
The advertising that has a big recall value to me was of Maggie. So when we see the Maggie advertisement, no, Smita, you are not audible. So when we see the Maggie advertisement, what is the first thing that click into our mind? The first thing that clicks into our mind is 2 minute
Two
noodles.
minutes.
You can easily cook in 2 minutes. And if you see the packaging of the Maggie as a product, you'll find that the biggest thing that you see is two mentioning that can be cooked in 2 minutes. What is this 2 minute? 2 minute is a kind of a promise that Maggie is making. While it is selling its products, Maggie is making a promise that it can be cooked within 2 minutes. Rashi is saying washing powder Nirma. Yes. And what did it say there that whiteness like a milk? That is, and thanks, Rashri. So when we talk about Nirma, it gives a promise that It will give the whiteness like milk, although I don't think so that both the companies fulfill this promise. That could be another advertisement that we talk about is Fair and Lovely. People used to say that our product manufacturer used to say that if you apply Fair and Lovely for 7 days on your skin, you'll be fairer. I wasn't fair at any time. So what I'm trying to say is that in order to sell yourself as a product, you need to make a promise to the interviewers right in the beginning of the interview. This usually happens when you give your introductions or when they ask you about your last project or the last company. And it has got an extremely high recall value. So what happens that once your interview is done, they have to interviews have to send them a kind of a notes and other things to the HR talking about what was their feedback about you. And at that point of time, you need to have a very high recall value. And that recall value could be made tremendously high if you have a very good promise inbuilt in your introduction right in the beginning. Okay. Now, somebody could come back before and tell me that, Raghav, how we could introduce this promise into your all type of interviews. Then is there any digital marketer here? Let's take an example for digital marketing. Any digital marketer here? Eh,
Raghav, I am,
Dishank.
yeah.
Oh, Sapo. Okay. So Dishank, you have been a digital marketer. Jilam is a digital marketer. So I'll go back to you, Dishank, because you answered first. Okay. If you come back for an interview and I am giving you an interview and you are the interviewee, then what could be the promise that you can make? There are multiple aspects of digital marketing. So out of all the digital marketing aspects, whether we go back for SEO or PPC or brand marketing or email marketing, which one are you?
My major focus would be on pay-per-click advertising, email marketing, and social media marketing.
Okay. So let's take something on email marketing. Okay.
Okay.
In terms of email marketing, suppose you're going back for a role and they are asking about an email marketer. Okay. Then what could be your promise to people for the interviews? And they are not going to ask you that, gone are those days when people used to ask this question like, why should we hire you? Nowadays, these questions is considered as a very demeaning question. Two questions that usually interviewers are asked. I mean, those people who train the interviewers, they usually ask not to ask two kind of questions. First, why should we hire you? And the second thing is that, can you tell something about yourself? So usually people are trained not to ask these two questions. 5, 10 years ago, this was one of the two most common questions. So if they ask you for an introduction, you need to inbuilt your promise into your introduction. And as I told in the last of my sessions, you can go back to the video if you have missed out. Your introduction should consist of who you are, what are you selling, what is your key skills, how do you differentiate from the crowd, and what contributions can you make to the next company. This fifth point, what contributions can you make in the next company, is your promising statement. And you need to give a promising statement that your forte or your specialization lies in email marketing, and you have used the cutting edge tools like MailChimp, and you have the extraordinary ability or a forte to have an extremely high click-through rate and with a hook attachment in the email so that you can hook and prime the readers and redirect them towards your company portal or in terms of looking at the promotional offers and redirecting a higher number of web traffics to your portal or to your application, giving that you have been enormously appreciated in the last organization for improving the click-through rate by 22%, generating roughly around 20% of the traffic or 15% of the traffic to your company portal. So when you do something, it gives a promising statement that this guy will improve our email marketing or it will generate a higher traffic to the portal. And this is where people would like see a very clear promise. And you see that any guys understand the consumer psychology. For them, it's your buyer. And the buyer has one psychology that they want to calculate. They would like to make a balance between price and value. So Anvisha has just joined in. Anvisha, what is the difference between price and value? Price is something that you pay out, and value is something that you get after what you pay. So when an interview takes your interview, and when an interviewer takes your interview, they make a price value calculation, that what price they are going to pay you out and what value you are going to create for them. And this promising statement is a kind of a value creation, that what you are going to do for them. All right. So this is the first P that you would need to always make sure that if you are giving an interview, if you are taking an interview as an interviewee, then make sure that you have this promise built in your introductory statement, because you miss out this, you won't be able to match this in any of the part of the interview. Okay, that's great. I guess Jilam has raised the hand. Jilam, you have any question?
Yes. Hi, Raghav. So, when you are uh, explaining about that, how to pitch yourself and the promise, so do we have to use a specific metric? Like, for example, that I in my last role, I have improved the engagement by 30%. So, will that be the first, say, first sentence or first line of my the promising statement? Or
Okay. Okay, so you need to be very careful over here. Because, for
okay.
example, let's take an example of a data analyst. First, basically, Jilam, you're a digital marketer. I'll take the example of digital marketing only.
Mm-hmm.
Suppose the interviewer is requiring someone in SEO, and you make a promise in email marketing. This will not match.
Okay.
So you need to understand that what is the one core thing that the job description asks, and you need to give one strong metrics about that particular job aspect. It should be highly relevant. An irrelevant promising statement will not do good. Suppose Chilam
Okay.
goes back for eating something in 5 minutes, and if somebody sells Jhilam a slow cooked pressure cooker which take 45 minutes to cook, it is not useful. It is completely not useful for them. So make it in a way then. All right.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Now, next we'll go back for the picturization part. Okay. What is picturization? The second piece called as picturization. Now, understand these things. It is extremely high and highly important that all your answers, especially behavioral questions, should be into a storytelling mode. Why storytelling is so important? The storytelling, and I will say two things over here: storytelling and having a conversation. If you see that when I talk to you guys, I specifically call out names, I ask you questions. Why am I doing this? I'm doing this in order to create an engagement. Because when one person speak and the other person listen, it creates a disengagement. And this is the thing that you need to learn not to do in any of the interviews. If your interview is like a one-way statement, that they are asking you questions for 15 seconds and you are giving an answer for 2 or 3 minutes, straight questions and answers, in that case, there's a big time likely chance that you are going to fail. Interviews are not meant to be taken seriously. Interviews are meant to be taken in a taking like a conversation, just like two people is having a general conversation. If you are very serious about interview, and if you're talking extremely to the point, it may be a place that they will consider that you are getting nervous. If you usually go back for seasoned interviewers who are very who have got good experience and who explain themselves very clearly, you'll see that they will not just give the answers, they will also ask the questions in between to the interviewers, and they will try to make it like a conversation. So just understand these things, that you don't need to wait for 30 minutes when they, at the end of the interview, they are going to ask you and say that, Anvesha, do you have a question for us? Absolutely not. If you have any questions for them and if it can fit in between the conversation, then you can definitely ask them. For example, Dishank went back for a digital marketing role. He gave the introduction. They talk about themselves as well, that this is what the product line, and they mentioned that yes, one of the key things that they are launching a program in email marketing using Mailchimp XYZ things. They are launching their product in a new market, and Dishank can easily come back and say that. So, are you facing some troubles of new market acquisitions or a competitive edge in the new market that you are launching in? How's it going there? Which is the biggest problem you are facing in the new market, if you are authorized to tell? So basic questions, very brief questions you can ask. And it should be something like this, that after every 4 or 5 questions, you can, after every 4 or 5 questions, you can definitely ask them a parallel question. That will be completely all right. Okay. And second thing that I would say is that whenever you are taking up any interview, another key thing that comes back is storytelling. I told you before about storytelling as well. So storytelling is so important. And why it is important? Because it will create an engagement to people. Whenever you say something to the interviewers, one of the problem that you will see is that they would usually suffer with attention deficit syndrome. And what is attention deficit syndrome? That if you say something which is not catching their attention in the first 10 seconds, you will have next 2 minutes very disinterested next 2 minutes. I'll talk more about this, but in before we go, if anyone is comfortable in opening the cameras, you can definitely open up the camera. It will create a good engagement between us. I will be able to put a face to your name, and I'll be able to take up a good questions. Thank you, Nikhil. Okay, so my next question will be with you, Nikhil, because you have just opened up the camera. Okay, don't take it as a penalization, but it will something a good thing to know you more. Okay, and it will always have a more recall value. So understand this thing, that till the time you're looking forward for the jobs, no matter whether you're a data analyst or you're a business analyst, you need to be a marketer. You need to be a marketer, and you need to be a sales guy. If you're not a marketer, if you're not a sales guy, probably you are not fit for getting a jobs very quickly. This is the mindset. Sales and marketing skill is something, it's a life skill. It's a surviving skill. It's not just a interviewing skill. Okay, so I'll go back. Anybody who's comfortable who can join us in camera, that will be great. So storytelling is a very important part because it creates an engagement. Understand this thing, that all your behavior answer should go in a storytelling mode. The best way of telling a story is either a star method, okay, is either a star method or a Carl method. So there are two things that people usually, the methods that people use. The star method is mainly about the situations which are goody goody situations. Somebody telling you that sorry guys, I don't know what was the problem. I was put on hold. Am I still audible, guys? Okay,
Now,
Yes.
yes, yes, Rana.
okay, sorry.
Yes, yes.
So I was put on hold. I don't know how did it happen. So I think the call went on hold. So what I'm trying to say is, thank you, Rajshri, and thank you, Bhumika, for opening up the cameras. So what I'm trying to say is that you need to have a good storytelling mode. Usually you can take up the two ways of storytelling. One is star and one is card. The star is mainly about the good situation. Card is mainly about your not so good situation. So if somebody asks you questions about what has been your biggest achievement, how you contributed to the organizations, tell me about a time when you have moved above and beyond your standard job responsibilities, or tell me about a time where you have gone through and helped a customer beyond the standard norms. These are always considered as a good situations. You go back and you talk about your situation, task, action, and result. All these star methods should be tied up in within 2 minutes or 120 seconds. Do not give long answers. One of the key things that interviewers hate is then when you give very long answers. If you're giving long answers for more than 2 minutes, mostly they will not like it. And if one of the bad situation can happen in an interview, that you are giving an answer, the interviewer will cut you off and ask the next question. And if that situation happens, consider that you are about to be thrown out of the interview. Most likely. Most likely. At the end of this call, I will also tell you that if you're taking an interview, what are the cues by which you can easily understand in the interview that you will be passed in the interview or you will be dropped out. So there are some psychological cues that we are going to talk about. And the last, and we will also say that I'll also tell you that if you want to know how did your interview go, within the interview itself, there are certain questions that you can ask, and at the end of the interview, you'll get to know that whether you have passed the interview or you have not passed the interview. So these are some psychological tricks I'll talk at the end. So I'll come back to the Carl method. The Carl method is about context, action, result, and learning. So you see the learning part, context, action, result, and learning. Carl method only goes with a negative situation. Negative situation is something that Rajshri came back to a company for an interview, and the interviewer asked to Rajshri, tell me about a time when you failed and what did you learn from it? Okay, so this is the area where she would not use the star method, whether she's going to use the Carl method. Okay, and suppose now Nikhil came back for an interview, and the interviewer asked, Nikhil, what was your employer's feedback in your last appraisal? Okay, in this case, instead of talking about the star method, he is going to use the Carl method. Okay, so that's how you are going to use the picturization part. The third thing now we are going to learn is about the third P, which is called as proof. And this is a psychological aspect. Okay, Rajratan, could you tell me more about your profile? I'll take you as an example and talk about the third P part, which is mainly about the proof.
Hey, hi Raghav. I'm having 8 years of experience
Hmm.
into Java development. My
Okay,
last role is principal engineer. I used to
okay,
5+ team basically. So
okay. So 8 years of Java development experience. Is that right?
yeah, Raghav.
Okay. All right. Now, suppose Rajaran comes back for an interview and I am his interviewer. Supposedly. Okay. In that case, what I'm going to do here, I'm going to ask Rajratan that, Raj, can you tell me about the biggest success did you have in your last job role? And Raj, I would like to understand that how would you frame this answer? And this is where I'm going to tell you guys why some people fail here, because most likely Raj will not include something that I would like to hear.
Uh,
Okay, so Carl method is, somebody asked this question. Carl method is context, action, result, and learning. Okay, all right. Now, Raj, suppose I'm asking you your biggest success in the interview. Okay, how would you frame that answer?
so basically, I was employee of the quarter for Orion Pro in last firm. Because of my achievement in microservices and the Oracle-based solution which I provided to the client, and I got a uh, client mail basically for appreciation. Basically, it was an appreciation mail from the client, so uh, it was my biggest achievement so far. So
Okay, all right. So if that is the way you are framing the answers, you have got two problems. First thing is that I do not take interviewers do not take such things as the way you are mentioning it. Second thing is that your contribution or your success is not what achievements you have done. Your success comes back that what you have done for the company. So just understand that if you have bagged an award, it means that you must have done something good. So you need to talk about what did you do something good, which you did briefly, but you have not done one important point is called as proofing. So because I'm not very much clear with your answer, so I'll give you an example. Suppose I am a Java developer, okay, and somebody asked me about my biggest achievement. Then I'm going to talk about that. What is the result that I achieved? And how did I achieve? And what was the metrics about it? So, Rajratan, in your case, you do not talk about the metrics. For example, I would say that I was a Java developer. I led the CI/CD pipelines and deployments, and I led 5 out of 5 my recent deployments successfully without any escape defects. Or I would talk about that while one of the biggest problem that testers have with developers is the quality of code. And then Rajutan can go back and mention that in every 10,000 lines of code, his error rate was less than 0.2%. So this idea is just to give that you need to give some numbers, percentages or marks in order to, give some confidence for the employer. It's a psychological issue that whenever somebody asks you for something important and you give them some numbers, for example, if Nikhil says that I'm a great marketer and I have helped in growing the revenues, versus Nikhil says that I'm a digital marketer and I have given the outgrown performance in my revenue generation. I have led 22% additional margins in 3 months' time when I joined the company. Which one you consider as a powerful statement? Of course, the other one. When you are giving back the numbers, percentages, people will feel more confident when they give some numbers, marks, or any kind of, percentages or something. So just make a note that proofing is a very important part. So if you are claiming something, so Rajatan, you claimed here that you have achieved a success. If you are claiming something, make sure that, okay, make sure that you are bolstering the claim with some kind of percentage number marks or some kind of proof that you are putting in. All right, great. Next, any questions so far? No one? Okay, good enough. We'll go back to the fourth part. Okay, and this one is very interesting. This is called as pitch. Almost 8 out of 10 times people ask in the interview, Anvesha, why did you apply for this role? Anvesha, if you are looking for which roles are you looking forward?
Can you
I
hear
know
me?
that which I know that which roles you're looking forward, but for the other listeners, which role are you looking forward?
I'm looking for account executive
All right.
role.
So you are looking forward for account executive roles, and somebody come back. Suppose you are going back for Google, and Google asks you this question that why are you looking for this role? Why have you applied for this role? What excites you about this role? Okay. Then the fourth P come back. This is called as pitch. Okay. Do not give answers when you have to sell yourself. This is a clear question where people would like to see that how is your persuasion skills? How is your convincing skills? This question that mainly the question that why are you applying for this role, what excites you about this role, or why did you apply for this role, and why did you want to join our organization. All these questions are usually asked in the areas where you have to face the clients, or where you would go back and you have to deal with the larger numbers of audiences in the form of leading a team or leading a client or doing some crucial projects. At those jobs, this question is very frequent. So because Anvesha is going back for account executive, she will definitely go back and reach out to customers. It's very important that she should have some convincing skills. So they would like to know that what is her persuasion and convincing skill. So at this stage, you don't have to give the answers. At this stage, you have to make a pitch. Okay. I will go back to someone else whom I have not come back. Shall I go with Achal? If Achal does not give the answers, I'll go back to Devanshi Shah. Okay. So Achal, suppose if I give you a question that why did you apply for this role? Okay. What is the framework that you're going to use? How would you frame this answer? and
So,
understand and understand that we need
yeah.
to pitch here. Okay, what is a pitch? Pitch is a very strong statement that cover all the aspects of your profile and gives a person why he should buy you. Okay, that is a pitch. So tell me, how would you frame that answer?
So, first of all, before going to interview, I'll research about the job description and the company,
Very
and
good.
according to that, I will start my answering to this question with my background and aligning that this job description aligns with my skills, along with the contribution what company is looking for the company's values, sort of
Very
uh,
good.
mixing
Very
the
well.
values of the keywords.
Very well, Achal. What is your profile? What roles are you looking at?
So I'm looking for software development because my background is of Java development of 5.8 years of experience. So I'm looking
Very
for
well.
senior software engineers role.
Very well. Okay. So now Achal goes back for a Java developer role. Okay. And when she applies for the role, maybe her dream company is, mm, let's take an example, version 1 or Accenture or IBM or something like that. And suppose she goes back for IBM. Okay. And interviews at IBM ask that, why did you apply for this role? What you guys need not to do is, okay, don't talk about the other activities which is not directly relevant to the job. Some people say that you are doing very good for environment, which is good, but this is not the bullseye. So the point is that somebody asks you about why did you apply for this role? Hit the bullseye first. What is the bullseye? The bullseye is something about that they are looking forward when Anchal will go back to the job description. She's going to hit the bullseye by 4 or 5 aspects. And I'll talk about this 4 or 5 aspects, but understand another psychological aspect first. So she's going to make a pitch. And how does a pitch is differing from an answer? Suppose I am pitching myself to Anchal and she is the interviewer. Okay. So instead of saying that I applied for this role because I see this in the interview that you are going to that I see that there's a 5 years requirement of experience in this interview. Someone needs to know the Java or struts or Hibernate or maybe other advanced Java concepts. Someone should have an experience of CI/CD solutioning. Somebody who would be good in taking the requirements, and somebody should be good in backend development or server side logic as well. So instead of talking about this, or instead of talking about this, what I am going to provide. So one way is that Anchal can go back and say that I applied for this role because I have more than 5 years of experience. I am very good in making a server side logic, and I have utilized XYZ tools in doing the CI/CD pipelines. I have led a lot of deployments. This is the way she is trying to put the logic. But when we convert this into a pitch, so just understand that if I'm pitching this to Anchal, I'm going to say something like this. I'm not saying that I am going to do this. I'm going to say that you are going to get this. So I will start my pitch like this, that, oh yes, of course. I'll give a softer touch. I'll say that, oh yes, of course, I would love to, answer that. And I'm grateful that you asked me this question. When I read the job description, I found that you are looking for someone who has got 5 years of experience. And if I go back for this role, you are going to get someone who has got a very good CI/CD experience of deployments for more than five major deployments. And you are also going to have a candidate who can look at the server side logic, work on the integration testing, and who can take your company at a great phase to the customer's end and represent IBM to your clients as a great face of the company. In this way, you understand the logic that I'm not going to say that I am going to do this. I'm reframing the things in a way that you are going to get this. So when you reframe the things and say that you are going to get this if you hire me, or if I am going to do these things and you are going to get these things, you will have a much better recall value. Okay. So Anchal did a half of the answer very great, that she mentioned that she'll read the job description, she will try to match it with her experiences, and then she is going to put something that they really want. I am talking about the other half thing, that how are you going to put that across? All right.
But Raghav,
You have a question?
no, thanks.
Okay. So that goes back for the pitching statement. All right. Now, I'll be happy to take some of the questions if you have. So today, guys, we learned about the 4P methods today, that if you're going back for any interviews, the first thing that you need to look at is the promising value. Do you have any promising statement to make? Second thing is about picturization. You can utilize either a star method or you can utilize a car method. The third thing that you look forward is that you can go back with any type of proof, but give some metrics which is very relevant for them. And the fourth thing is about pitching statement. Convert your answers into pitches. Okay. So this is just a brief gist. I usually go back with large number of examples during my private sessions at careerisland.com. And I hope so that you will be able to utilize these very much. If you don't, then you can reach out to myself or Career Island team for further things. But I think so we have done with the 4P methods, and I'll be open for any questions if you have. And I see Rajri has a question.
Yeah, hi Raghav. Thank you for your valuable insights. My quick question to you is suppose when you said about the pitching part, right? In that aspect, we don't have to give the background of ourselves, right? Like suppose of our education or our, similar industry or sector experience, all of that is not required to be given. It has to be
No,
very
it is
specific
it is required. It is
and short.
required. It is required, and you need to give in brief. Okay. What, for example, you are have 6 years of experience in let's take data analyst or digital marketing, then you need to talk about that. That yeah, I can see that in the job description that if I apply for this role, you are going to get someone with 6 years of experience in XYZ area, having a master's in this, which I already have. So it will be a lock and key combination for us both.
Right. And
Okay.
suppose, do we at any stage do we have to bring in our stamp holding status at at
No,
any point, or we don't have to
no.
worry about it? We don't have
No,
to.
never. Never talk about your stamp status in an interview unless it is asked.
Okay, okay,
Okay?
okay.
Because
Oh,
a hiring manager will never say that. And if a recruiter has a problem, he'll ask you the question first. Maybe what you can do is you can write a stamp for status on your CV. If you have a
okay.
stamp for, if you have a stamp for, then just put it across on your CV. The key reason, the key reason is that many times just because of your name, people might consider that you don't have a stamp for. You might be
Yeah,
off 1G, because still I would say that 80 to 90% of the people are still students, or they come back from the student experience and they don't
yeah,
hold stamp for. So some new recruiters, if they are calling 10 candidates and the nine
yeah,
candidates do not have a stamp for, he will automatically assume that the 10th candidate will also not have a stamp for. So
yeah.
if you
Right.
are a stamp for candidate, then you put mention your stamp for into your CV. Okay.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Somebody else also have a question?
Raghav,
Yes, who's that?
Raghav Acharya, I have.
Achal. Yes, Achal.
Again, related with the visas only, visa status. I'm not sure this is a relevant question for this session, but just wanted to ask because this is in many of the candidates. The thing is, we there are many students who are on the stamp 1G, not completing 2 years, but yeah, 1 year is almost completed.
Okay.
So, how do we handle this situation that we are expecting a sponsorship from the company for the critical visa, but
Okay.
they won't, like, we are not sure they will give us or not at correct right that moment starting the job. So how do we handle this
Okay.
situation that we will ask them or we will understand what is their thought process behind sponsoring the critical visa? Right now we
Okay.
are not, but yeah, after 2 years sort of we will be expecting a critical skill visa from them.
Okay. So just understand number one thing, that companies may not be likely, okay, they may not be likely to sponsor you in the beginning, but over the period of time, most of the companies are okay to file your work permit or to let you file the work permits over the period of time. Many companies, I would say that. Avoid talking about the visa situations or your sponsorships in the beginning. Let them talk about this. And if you really want to know the background, what you can do is you can go back to Google and search about critical skill work permit history of companies, or the list of companies who filed critical skill work permit. You will get a list of companies who have filed the critical skill work permit in the last 5 years. Okay. So you try to search the name of the company, you will be able to get the name of the company, that how many work permits they have filed in. So it will give an idea whether company has a history of filing the work permit or not. If you don't find that company's name in the list, there is a big time likely chance that company does not file the work permit. But if you get one, in that case, I would say that there will be a big time chance that that company will file the work permit for you. They may not be able to file the work permit right in the beginning, but over the period of time they can. And you can also see on LinkedIn that what other non-EU candidates are part of this company. You can reach out to those people and ask them that what is their experience about What is their experience about work permits, whether they have company has filed the work permit for those non-EU people or not. In this way, you can talk about these.
Sure, Taga. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next question. Dishang, do you have any questions? I see your hands raised. Nikhil, do you have any question? Your hand is also
Yes, sir.
raised.
Hi.
Hi.
So when I was applying to one of particular job, so they normally ask, do you need a sponsorship? So
So that's a tricky question. Okay. I'll leave that answer on you because why it is a tricky question? Because if you have stamp 1G, the answer to this question is no. You do not require a sponsorship. Okay. Regarding future, if they ask that now or in future, when we say about future, it means the foreseeable future. Foreseeable future does not mean that in 10 years you will need work permit or not. Foreseeable future is whatever you can predict, whether it is 3 months, 6 months, 1 month, 1 year. That is called as foreseeable future. Usually, what I have seen is that if there are two candidates, one is not requiring visa and one is requiring visa. So what the ATS does, that if you are making that option as yes, they will put you in another bucket which is requiring visa. It may be possible that interviewers will take the other bucket after they have finished up the first bucket of those candidates who are not requiring visa. So those that second bucket might be given the second priority. So I will leave it on you that how you want to put an answer over there. Okay. But just understand that the answer that you give over there, it is for the machine only. It is not for a human review. So only machine segregates the CV on that. Okay. So it's only for the
yes, sir.
machine. Okay. Next question. And the next question, I'll take it. Nikhil, you can raise your hands down if you have done. Dheeraj is asking question. Hi, Dheeraj.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, Dheeraj, I can hear you well.
Yeah, so my question is regarding the situation-based questions. Like, if suppose there's a question, but I haven't faced that situation in my previous job. How do you
Mhm.
handle that situation?
Okay. So understand this thing that interviewers usually have the idea that out of 10 questions they ask, people won't be able to answer two or three questions. That's a standard norm. Okay.
Mm.
But there are some crucial questions that where you cannot miss the answers. For example, I asked you about your failure. I asked you about your contribution. I asked you about your success. I asked you about your previous experience in a particular project. It's a experience based answer. You cannot miss that answer at all. But if I say something about, tell me about your experience with a client where you have handled a difficult client, whereas you had been working uh, in a role as a Java developer or as a junior developer where you have not interacted with client. In that case, if you have not been through into all these, you need to talk about them. Or maybe suppose, so let's take an hypothetical. May I know, Dheeraj, what do you do? I mean, what is your job profile? I'll give a specific example to you.
So I'm looking for a data engineer role.
Data engineer role. Okay,
Yeah,
now. And how much experience do you have?
3.5 years.
3.5 years. Okay. Now suppose that you go back to a top company. Okay.
Mhm.
And they go back and they ask you that, okay, tell me, Dheeraj, that tell me about when you have handled a very demanding client. And in your last experience, you worked as a junior data engineer. You were working with a senior engineer, and he used to go back to the clients and take the requirements and understand the things. Or maybe you worked internally for a product-based company like Salesforce. Okay. So Salesforce data engineer will not go back to users. They will only go back to the internal employees. So if somebody asks you about a difficult customer, you need to go back and tell them that I was not in a role of interacting with customers, but my customers were the internal employee, or I had the internal customers, which are usually not so difficult, or I do not consider the customers as difficult customer because they were internal employees. So I definitely had an edge. but I did the requirement gathering. I understood the other stakeholders' pain, interest, concern, and challenges, and I provided this and these solutions. So if you don't know the answer, just understand this thing. I asked Nikhil as a psychological aspect, Nikhil, do you have ice cream for me? And you don't have the ice cream, Nikhil, what you will say to me, and you don't want to offend me. I'm a very important person to you. I'm a very important guest coming to your house. And I said that, Nikhil, I need an ice cream. Can you go give me an ice cream? He doesn't have an ice cream. He'll say that, Raghav, would you like to have a sweet chocolate? So what he's trying to do is he's offering me something else instead of straight away saying no. Okay, so if you don't have the experience, you need to say that I can explain you more about this because I have not greatly been involved into these aspects. So you have to give a swift turn and redirect them to something else where you can give an answer. All right,
Yeah, thank you.
fair. Who else? I see a couple of hands as well. Okay, so Devanshi has a question. Devanshi, you have a question? Next one will be for Raghu. Devanshi, you are there? Okay, maybe Devanshi is not there. I'll go back to Raghu. Yes, Raghu.
Hi Raghav, you told you will cover this psychological thing with interviewers, how exactly the interview went on,
Oh,
how to
yes.
decide
Oh, yes,
who
yes,
will
yes.
go.
Very
Yeah.
well, very well. Very bang on. Very much bang on. Everybody missed this out. Okay. Now, suppose I'll take someone. I'll go back to someone which I have not spoken. Hmm. Is May there? May?
Hi, yes, Miss here.
Hi, May. How are you? Shall I call you May or shall I call you Jenny now? I'll call you Jenny. Okay.
Oh,
All
see
right.
you. Yeah. Run, I'm
Okay.
run. Thank you.
Okay, so maybe people don't know. I know May beforehand because she had been with the Career Island customer before. So Jenny, suppose, okay, I'll give you a quick
Okay.
answer that suppose Jenny takes an interview, Jenny or May, both are the same. So Jenny takes an interview at Microsoft, and after the end of the 30-minute interview, she wants to know that how did she do? Okay, so she is going to take some cues. Okay, one of the biggest cue that you can do is they are going to ask you a question that do you have any questions for us? Okay, how many questions you would like to ask? Never ask one question. If you just want to get rid of the interview, you ask one question. But if you want to know that how did you do? Okay, there are certain cues for it. The first cue is that try to extend the interview by a few more minutes. Okay, if they are happy to take up more time on you more than the stipulated 30 minutes or 45 minutes, that's a very good indication. And if by default your interview goes beyond the norms or beyond the time limits, it's a very good indication to show yourself that they are interested in you. Second thing is that if at the end of the interview, not in the beginning of the interview, okay, if the end of the interview they are asking about your visa status, or if they're asking you about what is your joining timeline, and if they are asking you about are you working elsewhere and what is your notice period, okay, it gives a very strong indication. Okay, third thing is that at the end of the interview they are giving you a subtle feedback. Okay, it means that they see some shortcoming in you and they want you to improve that for the next interview. Okay, these are all the things which is called as good cues. It means that you are very much likely to go back to the next round. But on the other end, if they say some of the very damaging statement like, all right, Drajshri, thank you so much for your time. We are actually interviewing other candidates and our HR will come back next week. The moment they say that they are interviewing the other candidates, it is a red flag. It's a red flag. I'm not saying that it's a completely different. It's a red flag. Okay. Second thing is that you ask them a question. They ask you that, do you have any questions for us? Okay. They ask this question and in 25, 26 minutes for a 30-minute interview, you answer, you asked a question that, okay, please could you tell me about more about that? What will be my well-defined career progression in the company? And they gave the answer about 2 minutes or 3 minutes, and it's almost about 30 minutes. And the moment they talk about this, you ask another question, and now the 30 minutes are over. Now you see the reaction. If they are very much complacent, they are very much calm, and they are explaining you in more detail that, okay, these are the products, these are the job, these are the project that you will be working on. Or maybe you asked a question like this, that, okay, Jason, could you tell me more about when I joined the company, what is the team structure that I'm going to have, and what products and tools I'll be working on. Now see the reaction. You are assuming now that you are into the company and you are asking about the things that may not happen and they don't like to take you in. In that case, they will give a very brief answer, extremely brief answer, just to turn you across. But if they give you elaborative answer like that, okay, so when you join the company, Rajshri, you'll be having three people to mentor. You'll have a manager who'll be helping you with this, and maybe will like you to work on the tools like ABC. Okay. Second question, the answer to the second question will give you a very good idea that they are interested in you or they are not interested in you. All right. Third thing, usually if you are in, you should be able to get a confirmed answer within 2 to 3 days maximum. If it is 7 days, then there's a big time likely chance that you won't be able to make it through. Not always, but there is a big time likely chance. Okay. And some companies have a problem that they only respond to the people whom they are taking in. They don't respond to the people whom they are taking out. Okay. So if they are not responding after one or two messages, it's very much likely that you won't get any response. Okay. Any other last few questions that you have? No? Anyone? Any one of you who is having the last 6 months of the STAM 1G left in this batch? Is anyone facing this issue that he has just a couple of months before his or her stamp 1G is expiring? If that, you can raise a hand now. I'll give you a priority over this. Okay. And if that's the case, you can reach out to myself, May. Okay. May, we are already connected, so that's good. But apart from May, if you have somebody else also mentioned that, because my focus and the criteria will be for those who are having the very last few months in the visa. And okay, so Raghu, you are the one. Raghu, you can connect with me separately after this call. Okay. I hope you
Uh,
might you know.
sorry to interrupt you. Are you also considering the people who are on stamp one and who either lost their job or got
Of course.
redundant?
They are even my top priority. So if in
Okay.
case you have two things, you have been made redundant, or so basically what I'm trying to do is
Yeah.
I'm prioritizing people, those who have got a limited availability on their visa, whether it
Yeah.
is after getting redundant or it is after getting the last few months of the stamp 1G. If that is the case, just understand that I'll be giving you top priority, and you can take down Career Island's number and you can reach out to them, or you can, if you have my direct contact, you can reach out to me directly. I will do myself whatever I can do for you. Okay, it's a
Oh,
very big thing because I can understand that people will be tremendous in a stress if you have just last few months. It is something that a kind of a now and a narrow, now or a never moment. I'll take
yeah.
some of the examples. I was mentoring a girl, and she is now on Stanford. She got her confirmed work permit confirmation along with a job confirmation when she was a one-way flight to India. So she came back to me on the last month. She had the last month of her stamp 1G and she had booked a flight already. And she was taking the flight. And when she was, she was in the taxi, she got a call 2 kilometers before the airport. And she was told that don't catch the flight. You have been through, and we will file the work
Wow.
permit as well. And now she has got a stamp four, and maybe in next master class or something. And the best thing was that she was a fresher.
Yeah.
She was a
Oh,
fresher.
wow.
And it happened with another lady as well, that she was so much frustrated that she went back to India, and but she kept on applying. So she got the job when she has already left with all the luggage and everything back to India. And from India, she got the job. And after 1.5 months, she have to bring back all the luggage and come back over here for two reasons.
Oh,
Because first, she got the extension. So luckily, she
yeah.
went back because she was exploiting all the 2 years. And luckily, in 1.5 years, she got the extension. And at the same time, one of her interview also converted. She has to reach back to Ireland again. So what I'm trying to say is that situation might be quite tough, but it is not over until it is over. Okay. And if you
Right.
need anything from my side, and I'll just give you a brief thing that I have two aspects. Um, uh, One is through your personalized coaching at Career Island. That is a completely separate thing. This thing I'm talking to you about as a part of my social responsibility. That if you want to come back for a quick thing from me, I would be available. I will be available for a quick guidance. I may not be available to a very long extent, but if you are stuck up with a problem, you can definitely come back. And especially if you have less than 6 months left, you should come back to me if I could be of any help. I can help you with, if you are suitable, then I can help you with referrals. I can help you with any kind of guidance, or I can help you with any kind of strategic advice that you need. All right. And if you need some understanding about the methodologies like Agile or tools like Power BI, or if you're stuck up with MS Project, or if you're stuck up with anything else, you can come back to me. If you have an interview and during that interview, they asked you to present a 30, 60, 90 days plan, I don't know whether Anvesha is there or not, but somebody who is going back for account management or a project management role, this kind of, or a business analyst role, this kind of PowerPoint presentation is very common. That they say that if you join the company, present some slides on 30, 60, 90 days of your work or something. So if you have those things, you can definitely come back to me. So
Oh,
it was good that we had a limited audience today. I was able to give a good personalized attention. So it's lovely meeting you all guys, and thank you so much. We'll have the last masterclass in next week. And after that, I'm thinking of coming back with some interesting stories from people. I'll try to bring out some good people to the board where they are going to talk about that what kind of odds they have come into. For example, people with 0 years of experience going back into Microsoft, Deloitte, and Amazon. People who are doing the career switch from coming back from a Java development to going back into data analysis, or people coming from sales and going back into digital marketing, or people who have lost jobs on critical skill and eventually getting even a higher job with a work permit. So we'll be talking about a lot many things over there. I plan to continue these kind of sessions more often, guys. And this is just a way. And one more thing is that I'm planning to have a meetup sessions where I'll call about 10 to 15 people from top companies, and maybe we can have you know a physical meetup session where all the people can come back and you can talk to each other. Best thing will be that you will have a great recall value when you go back with 15, 20 people who have been in a good stage of their career in different companies. And this is the way you can increase your network. So your network is your net worth, and keep on increasing your net worth. All right. Thank you guys. It's been a long time now. We can drop off, and we'll catch up next week then. All right. Bye.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Bye,
you,
Raghav.
Raghav.
guys.
Thank you
Thanks,
guys. Bye bye.
Raghav.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.